what you want to have in life is UTF-8 encoding. That's the standard for most things, done by sensible people like Ken Thompson and Rob Pike. Any of you programmed in Golang, you've heard of Rob Pike. If you've used C or Unix, you know Ken Thompson. If we're going to have varying length encoding anyway, well, let's have varying length encoding based around single bytes. And if it's a valid Unicode string, then it can be used in Python. Yep. Fun trick for the day. It's of no real value to society at all, but you don't have to use ordinary variable names. So, like if you don't like X as a variable name and you speak something else, then, you know, let's perfectly valid variable, you know.
Does Python support emojis as a variable name?
No!
I was gonna say,
And damn it, it's really annoying because it should. I have tried many times.
Okay.
I already had so many ideas for development.
Yeah. So utterly evil things, if you speak something like Arabic, where you can have the variable names like going right to left, and then you know, the assignment side and the other side of it. Or actually, here's another one. The Russian letter A looks so much like a Western letter A. And so you can just have an entire program where, you know, you've got two variables that, unless you're staring with a microscope, you can't tell which one you're actually assigning to.
We also have a lowercase 3.
Oh, yes, the Z sound. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's actually Z.
Yes, yeah.
Lowercase version.
And the other one, of course, the letter P, as in it's a pi symbol.
No, you know, P, no. I don't really so. Yeah, it does look like
Yeah. So let's translate something from English into Russian, and then we can use some variables in Russian.
I will have to double check, but I'm pretty sure someone made a JavaScript superset that supports emojis as variable names.
Of course, we need this.
Yeah.
Like, what will life be like? So if you look at that first letter there, that looks like a letter pi. So of course, you know, or better still, because it's a valid thing. Yeah, I can actually get the A in there as well. I mean, of course, if you want to take this to the real extreme, of course, is that an O or is that an O? So I'll do that and then print O and get an error, and you can stare at the code and try to figure out what's going on there.
Well, I think it also goes for some Python standards. I mean, if your variables already well defined with Russian word, with Russian letter, you can use it then later.
Yeah. I mean, I can use the Russian letter. That's fine. So, try debugging that. You know,
it's amazing that this is such enough of a problem that there are entire language servers dedicated to just telling you that, hey, this is a non-standard
thing. Yeah. Now back to your emoji question. I can't use it as a variable, but of course I can use it in a string. So if I go to Emojipedia, and anyone got a favourite emoji? Oh, that's nice. That's a pretty one. Somewhere in here there should be what number it is. I can't see what number it is, but that's okay. So I'm going to go heart equals and paste the heart, and then I say give me that string encoded in UTF-8. That gives me bytes. It must be E29DA4EF B8 8F is the whatever emoji number that is. And the cute thing about UTF-8 is that every ASCII character, every ASCII string is a valid UTF-8 string, which means you can go for a very long time without realising that your program is operating in UTF-8, and so maybe things just sort of happen to work. Jumping ahead to the next couple of slides, there are 4 different lengths. So you've got the ASCII characters, they're 1 byte long. Then you get the rarer things, so things like the E acute in French. There'll be the first byte will go 110, and then that gives us 5 bytes after that, and then the next byte goes 1, 0, and that gives us 6 bits after that, gives me 11 bits, and 11 bits gets you from 128 up to 2047. Then, when we started to talk some really obscure stuff, like Mandaic is one of those ancient languages from the Middle East around the birth of writing, and here is the sound ab, and so that it's rare enough that sits into the 3-byte thing, because we put the more rare stuff as longer strings. Same basic idea. If you compare, instead of 1, 1, 0, we go 1, 1, 1, 0 to say we're about to have a 3-byte sequence. That leaves you 4 bits on the end, plus another 6 bits, plus another 6 bits. 6 plus 6 plus 4 is 16. That gets you up to 65,000. And then we do the 4-byte characters, which is things like emoji. 4 bits of 1, then a 0, and then they all begin with 1, 0, and some spare bits after that to encode whatever it is. And we just hope that we don't end up with more than 1.1 million characters, because we meet alien race or something like that, and they tell us their language which has 2 million letters in it, then we're kind of stuffed. There's another little mini encoding that you might encounter, and that's the idea that almost all email and almost all internet protocols are based around ASCII. And so because of that, I can send an email to this email address quite happily. This example doesn't work very well because I haven't got a real good mail server to do it on. But the way mail normally works is you go something like this. You connect to port 25 on the server. You say, I am this computer, wherever you're coming from, which in my case I'm a local host. And then you say, okay, I've got mail from and it should be happy about that. Ooh. What's supposed to happen then is I'm then supposed to say receipt to, and then here's my email address that I'm sending it to. Oops. greg.baker@mq.edu. It's giving me all sorts of horrible error messages, but that's the basic protocol. It's all ASCII based. So how do I do that when I need to send it to an email address with a website, with a Chinese domain name or something like that? And the answer is there's this thing called Punycode encoding, and you'll recognise this by the fact that it begins with an XN dash is telling you the bit after this is a domain name, an international domain name of some other kind. So if I pop back to here, if I'm trying to set up my web server, I can't use the actual binary. I have to Punycode and say that website, whatever it was, Gungren something, yeah. This is the Punycode version of it. That's what you put in the web server config. The web browser sends in ASCII. I'm going to xn-VHQ whatever. The user typed in to the web browser, hey, I need to go to www.
So it works same as the IP address?
Sorry?
So it works same as like the IP address, like it's transferring it to other things? Like the IP address?
Yeah, a bit like that, yeah. I mean, there's 2 layers happening here. I typed in this Chinese, that got turned into Punycode. We looked up the Punycode in DNS. DNS gave a response back with an IP address. We connect to that IP address and say, I would like to get, here's the Punycode text. And then we get a response back from there. So from the point of view of the user, it looked like I typed in Chinese and went to a Chinese domain name. But in reality, all these protocols are ASCII. So that's how we adapt that. There are other encodings as well. I actually had a serious question from somebody looking at one of my papers that I wrote saying, have you considered the impact of UTF-9? So if you have a 1970s mainframe where, get this, a byte was 9 bits long, and the extended version of the BDP6 had an 18-bit word, you want to encode your your Unicode text on your punch cards for your PDP-6, there is an April Fool's Day joke of that. I don't know why I include that, I just find it very funny in my dry academic sort of thing. Okay, so summary of all things you need to know about text encoding before I launch into some other stuff. Know what ASCII is. Know what EBCDEC is. Know that code page 1252 is Western European, and that's where you get those open and close quotes from. Go and look up whatever, if you're not from Australia or you have a native language that's not English, go and have a look up at what your code page for your language is, because that'll be handy to know. Be aware of GB 18030, particularly if you're thinking of developing something and selling it for the export markets. And also be aware of UTF-16 and UTF-8.